new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
Make me feel like I've been locked out of hell.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UENradio.com.
Live from New Jersey and Hollywood, it's Alternative Health Talk with Denise Otten and celebrity guests such as Dr. William Davis, who's in the house tonight. My client, Savannah, lost 80 pounds from doing the Wheat Belly diet. I tell everybody to buy his book. Thousands all over the world are healing their diabetes, their liver disease, their lupus, and they're losing lots and lots of weight with the Wheat Belly diet. Tonight on Alternative Health Talk, we have cardiologist Dr. William Davis. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! He's a New York Times best-selling author of Wheat Belly and his new book, Undoctored, Why Healthcare Has Failed You and How You Can Become Smarter Than Your Doctor. Welcome, Dr. Davis.
Hi, Denise. Glad to be back.
Thank you for coming. I have to ask you, I mean, you're going to tell us how to put the pasta and the bagels down and lose weight and get healthy, but how did you all of a sudden find out that you shouldn't be eating wheat anymore, that it's the devil?
It started in some funny ways, Denise. It started when my mom died of sudden cardiac death in New Jersey. I was living in Wisconsin. And this happened about 4 months after her successful 2-vessel coronary angioplasty. And see, that's what I did also in practice. I did angioplasty and put stents in and aborted heart attacks, all that kind of stuff. But it was a vivid illustration. Besides losing my mom, I realized how pointless, how silly, how incomplete, how inadequate it was to try to address a disease with a procedure. Because people die before they even get there. And, you know, the sad thing is most of my colleagues don't care to prevent heart disease because it pays so well. Well, back then, this is 20-some years ago.
Okay.
Back then, how could you identify early heart disease? Let's say I'm going to have a heart attack in 3 years or 5 years. How do you predict that? If I told you my total cholesterol is 250, does that tell you that I'm going to have a heart attack? No. Cholesterol is a completely absurd, outdated piece of crap. It's worthless. It is.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, but you know, when you think of it, Denise, in life or death terms, and that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yes.
That people are not being told they're at risk for heart disease, or they're given silly things like statin drugs, which almost do nothing. And by the way, so what we did back then, 20-some years ago, we set up a heart scan device. This was brand new back then. We had the first one in Wisconsin, only a handful in all the Midwest. We started scanning people. In fact, there wasn't even one in New York yet.
No?
That's how early this was.
What kind of device was it?
Back then, it was an electron beam tomography device. Now it's been replaced by a different technology called multi-detector CT scanners. They're types of CT scanners.
Got it.
And you scan the heart's arteries, and you quantify plaque. You measure plaque. And I say something like this. Denise, your score is 240. Normal is 0. And this, if you do nothing, Denise, the score goes up 25% per year. It's horrifying how fast heart disease grows once it gains root.
Wow.
Well, back then, I said, here, go on Lipitor, cut your fat, exercise, right? Everything in moderation. Take aspirin. What was the effect? 25% per year. We helped publish those data. In other words, conventional answers did not work. Experts, so-called experts, the consensus opinion back then was, just don't repeat the scan then to see if the score went up. Just let them have heart attacks.
Oh, my God.
No kidding. Or let them have symptoms and then deal with it. But don't track it. Don't give people warnings.
Wow. Okay, so now just go to your argument on Lipitor. Because I know, I've read your books, and I know about Lipitor, that it's the biggest scam in medical history. But tell me why how you figured out that Lipitor wasn't working. What was the statistic?
So if you put all these people at risk, and these people are freaking out, right? They have high scores of 500, 1,000, 1,500. If your score is 1,000 or higher, the risk of dying or a heart attack this year is 10 to 15% or higher. So these people are scared, right?
Right, right.
So it became clear, and this has been corroborated numerous times. You put people on high doses of statin drugs, aspirin, low-fat diet, it has zero effect. So what do? What do I tell these thousands of people who are freaking out on me, right? Well, I had to bang around and find the answers, and it took me a number of years. Well, one of the things you have to do is reject this idea that cholesterol testing has any value. It does not. Cholesterol value testing is an outdated, wildly archaic method that should have been abandoned 40 years ago, but it proved to be a rich revenue source for big pharma. There's a superior test. And there's a lot of other things that cause heart disease too, like vitamin D deficiency, omega-3 fatty acid deficiency, a lot of things.
And inflammation. And that's all in your book?
Yeah. Well, from a lipid or cholesterol type standpoint, the real test is called advanced lipoprotein testing. And I've been doing this for 20 years.
Okay.
And if you do that, you recognize right away, and these are data from, not my data, this came out of UC Berkeley, out of Hopkins, and other good centers. They showed that only grains and sugars cause the number one most common cause of heart disease, and that is an excess of small LDL particles. Not the cholesterol in LDL cholesterol, but an excess of small, actually the particles themselves, their shape, their size, their charge, their you characterize these things. So the only thing that causes these things is grains and sugars. So I took people off grains and sugars, and small LDL would plummet, would drop like 2,000 down to zero.
Okay.
But Denise, I did it just for heart disease. That's all I did it for. But they'd come back 3 months, 6 months later, people would say, why did my ulcerative colitis go away? Why did my fatty liver reverse?
Yes.
You didn't tell me I'd lose 63 pounds. Why did I lose 7 dress sizes?
Yes.
Why is my waist 7 inches smaller? Why did my leg edema, hypertension, acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, psoriasis, seborrhea, migraine headaches, you name it, go away?
Wow.
That's
more.
That's
more than I'm really so thrilled that you just listed all those things, and I want people to go back and listen to this audio again, because it's so important to hear from Dr. Davis that these are the things that actually get reversed. Now, if people are like just scanning through here and they go, oh, I don't have that. Oh, but wait a second. They're starting, all these baby boomers are getting older, and they have little paunches and stuff, and they think, even women, and they think that they're doing fine because they're eating their salads and they're eating the chicken. It's like, wait, how about the grains? So last time I interviewed you, I said, well, what about if I eat millet? And I was still eating my millet and my rice and some other grains that were not wheat. And you said, no grains, Denise. I went, okay. No grains. I went, okay. So the next day, I stopped all grains, and in 2 weeks, my belly just like went flat.
Oh, great.
And I was like, wow, thank you. So I want to let you know that even though I'm not like worried about my weight too much, it still took the little paunch off. So if I can do it, imagine what happens if all those other baby boomers can do it.
Yeah, so all grains, that is the seeds of grasses. Because last I checked, Denise Otten is a nice human woman and not a cow or a goat or a sheep. No. I believe most of your listeners are human also, and none of them are ruminants that graze on grasses.
No.
Because that's what grains are, Denise. They are seeds of grasses. So we have been persuaded that the biggest part of our diet should come from grasses.
Right.
Which is astounding, because humans just don't have the digestive machinery to break down the components of grasses.
But how come you still crave the greens? Is it something that you've just been programmed to crave?
The greens?
Yeah, like I crave salads sometimes. I crave broccoli.
You know, I think it's okay to be somewhat hungry, but I will tell you another part of this whole argument is, we reject this idea, or more healthy whole grains. We also reject the cut your fat, cut your saturated fat, cut your calories nonsense.
Yes.
So I tell people every day, eat more fat. Eat more saturated fat.
Yes.
Don't buy lean cuts.
Eat that chicken skin.
Cuts. Eat the chicken skin, that's right. Eat the dark meat. Save the bones, save the fat, make soup, use more butter, use more coconut milk, use more olive oil, etc. So a lot of people are fat deprived. People have a real hard time with this, and he's getting over this fat phobia.
Yes, they think they're going to get fat.
Right. And of course, the opposite is true. It's
Exactly.
satiety. And it can cause changes in cholesterol, but who cares? Cholesterol doesn't matter. And anyway, a lot of the changes induced in cholesterol values are actually positive. There's a rise in HDL, there's a drop in triglycerides, so there's a lot of good things happen. But unfortunately, John Q. Primary Care often doesn't understand that.
Right. And so this is something that I have interviewed people, and a lot of doctors and scientists, and they still think that cholesterol levels being at that 200 level is important. And you're the only one that says no. Please explain why people shouldn't be scared by their doctors, because they basically say you're going to die if you don't get your cholesterol under 200.
You know, this is 4 shows on your show just to cover that. But in a nutshell,
encapsulize it.
In a nutshell, 1, total cholesterol and even the bad LDL cholesterol is a lousy predictor. It's a terrible predictor.
Okay.
So if I said, Denise, your LDL is 148, what do I know about you? Nothing. I can't tell you have heart disease. I can't tell you if you're going to have a heart attack tomorrow. I can't tell you if you're never going to have a heart attack. You can't tell anything. It's such a lousy marker. In fact, the average LDL bad cholesterol of a person with a fatal heart attack is 132, which is kind of low. So the statin apologists say, well, get it down even lower, as low as possible, maybe below 70. Well, here's a problem. 1, the vast majority of data generated in support of the statin drug industry was paid for by the statin drug manufacturers. That's a big problem right there, because we know if a sponsor, if Ford told you Ford makes the best car in America, you say, well, who did the study? They said, we did. We paid for it. Well, think that's marketing. That's not science, but that's 95% of the science behind statins.
It's like the tobacco science in the 1940s.
Yes, exactly. Another thing they do is, let's say you and I do a clinical trial of 100 people on a drug, and there's only 1 heart attack in those 100 people over 5 years. In a placebo arm of 100 people, there are 2 heart attacks over 5 years. We say, so 2 heart attacks reduced to 1, that's a 1% reduction, right?
Yes. Big
Pharma calls it a 50% reduction in heart attack. It's called relative risk. It's very misleading. Imagine your stockbroker says, Ms. Otten, I can turn 50% per year on your money. You say, take it, do it. Wow, I'll be rich. You come back a year later, he says, I made 1%. That's a big difference, right? But this is the depth of deception practiced by this predatory, manipulative, and exploitative industry called Big Pharma that all our congressmen and senators kowtow to.
Yes. Well, they get paid by them.
They get paid by them. That's why there's no legislative will.
Yes, exactly. So you were on the Dr. Oz show. You were on the CBS this morning with your book, The Wheat Belly. You had a PBS nationwide show, Wheat Belly Total Health. Why did you go against the conventional medicine? Even though your mother died, why did you go against convention when you knew you were going to get badgered?
Well, these because someone would come to me and say, I'd like to do this program. I said, well, here's how you do it, right? We eliminate wheat and grains. We get your thyroid in order. You supplement magnesium and omega-3 fatty acids, and we cultivate bowel flora. Simple menu strategies. Person goes back to their doctor and tells them what they're going to do. The doctor says, that's stupid. Don't do that. You're going to have a heart attack.
Dr. Davis told me to do it.
So the person would do it anyway and would go back to the doctor 6 months later and say, look at me. I'm off my insulin. I don't have ulcerative colitis anymore. I'm off my 3 drugs, including my silly biologic drug. I don't take prednisone. I feel better. I look 10 or 20 years younger. I'm different and I'm healthy again. The doc says, nah, it's a coincidence. Go back to what you were doing.
Yeah.
In other words, as you learned with your daughter, people get healthier because of their own efforts, despite the blundering of the doctors.
And that's why you wrote this book, Undoctored.
Exactly. So what I saw, Denise, was that we had the means to show people how to regain magnificent control over health, weight, and, by the way, aging, too, to some degree, because people often turn the clock back 10, 20 years when they do this.
We're going to talk about your magic aging potion.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So that's why I called it Undoctored. What I did not anticipate was that network TV and big print media said, now, ooh, we run drug ads. In fact, they pay most of our bills now. So all those ads, TV ads, and advertising for drugs, they say, well, that means so we don't want to antagonize those people. They pay us a lot of money. Let's not run any kind of interviews that might antagonize big pharma. So big pharma now is essentially has control of big media. So that's why what I'm doing with you and other shows like this online is so critical, because big media has abdicated its position. They're no longer impartial reporters of the news or of necessary conversations. They are now working on behalf of big pharma. Isn't that something?
That's the truth. I've heard it before. And that's why I was so surprised that you had a great publicity with Wheat Belly. You got on every media show. Maybe because you weren't talking about not taking drugs, you were just saying, just don't eat the wheat. And
yeah, I was surprised by that too, to be honest, Denise, because there's a lot of grain advertising goes on TV also.
Yes.
I'm not sure how I got away with it, but somehow did, and I'm grateful.
Yes, that was the springboard. And so I want to tell everybody who's ever seen or heard about Wheat Belly, and it's a huge hit. It's like a New York Times bestseller. Undoctored is even better. It's like the Wheat Belly is the primer. You get through the history of why you shouldn't eat it, and then you read about Undoctored, and you really learn how to heal yourself. And it is just, it's a brash book. He tells the absolute truth, and I know why now they don't want to have you on CNBC, ABC, NBC, Fox News. They just won't have you. And they don't care about me, so I can say whatever I want. But the truth is that this book is a healing book. I am not kidding. You've got to get it. And if you can't get it, at least go online and try and do the Kindle. Kindles are always a little bit less expensive, but you got to try and get the book. It's also something that you don't just read it. You go back to it again and again and again. So you're referring to it like a little encyclopedia of health. So, okay, now we got to talk about your youth serum. Doctor, you have a magic potion, quote unquote, that you've started to create and that has helped your clients look 20 years younger. Yeah,
it's the craziest thing, Denise, and
Okay.
it's not part of the Undoctored program of the book. This is in
right.
my Undoctored blog, Wheat Belly blog, and
So please go on his Undoctored blog. What is it called? Undoctored what?
The Undoctored blog, and there's a post called, actually there's a bunch of posts about this idea, but the one summary post, because I pieced this together over 6 months or so, but the summary post on how to do this is called Making L-Reuteri, R-E-U-T-E-R-I, yogurt. Let me tell you what that means.
Yes.
So I was thinking about the hormone oxytocin. So a lot of moms and ladies know what oxytocin is, because if you wanted to schedule your delivery, and you say, hey, doc, he says to your obstetrician, I want to deliver my child at Wednesday morning, September 8th at 8 a.m.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you come into the hospital, they give you an injection of Pitocin or oxytocin. It's a hormone that causes uterine contraction.
Okay,
So
let me just stop you, because those people who think you're saying oxycodone or something, what oxytocin is, and I just learned about this a few years ago, oxytocin is the hormone that you manufacture when you're having, if you're lactating or if you're even orgasming, you have that oxytocin going to your brain, and that's why a lot of women, more women than men, that's why a lot of women believe that they're in love, because they have this hormone going to their brain, and it's causing euphoria and love. So you're saying this yogurt actually helps you to produce your own oxytocin. Correct?
Yes, it's become, and thank you for pointing that out. This has nothing to do with oxycodone or something like that, or oxycontin.
Right. Yes.
It's completely unrelated. It's a normal human hormone.
Yes.
And it's capable of so much more than just gynecologic issues.
Right.
So what we do is we make the yogurt in a very specific way, because you can buy this thing.
Okay.
And one thing people have to pay attention to, though, is it's very specific to the strains we use. You can't just there are 200 strains of this bacteria, and there's only 2 strains we know work, and those are listed in my blog post. And we buy them from a company, because a company locked these 2 strains up with a bunch of patents. But they sell it to you in very low bacterial counts.
Okay.
So it's not about yogurt, Denise. It's about amplifying bacterial counts through yogurt. And we do it in a very specific way, in the presence of a prebiotic fiber. If you consume dairy, we use high-fat dairy, like organic half and half. You can use coconut milk, but there's some additional steps you have to go through.
Okay.
And we ferment for a long time, like 36 hours, much longer than usual, because we want really high bacterial counts for a bigger effect.
Okay.
And it breaks down the casein beta A1 and exhausts all lactose that's converted to lactic acid. So there's a lot of reasons we do this in a very specific way. But people consume a half a cup a day.
Okay.
2 weeks, ladies lose their neck wrinkles.
No
They
kidding.
lose the wrinkles around the honest. They start losing the wrinkles around the eyes.
I gotta do it.
Skin, because as we age, skin thickness thins.
Yes.
Skin thickness increases. You can see that in other parts of the body too. Dermal collagen. Ladies will kill for collagen, right?
Yeah, I take collagen every day in my coffee.
Well, it's good to do that. This will go far, much farther.
Subcutaneous is like getting injections, right?
My suspicion, Denise, has never been proven, is that you combine this yogurt with your collagen hydrolysates, and you get a synergistic effect in increasing dermal collagen.
Wow.
Healing is massively accelerated. You'll heal much faster. Your bone density increases. You will gain muscle. You won't be Schwarzenegger. Ladies don't have to worry about that. But you'll return to
women
more.
like to have a little bit more muscle instead of flab, right?
Well, because we all lose 35% or more of muscle mass and strength as we age, and this brings a lot of it back.
Okay.
It can accelerate loss of visceral fat, tummy fat. It increases libido, so be careful.
Be careful.
Yeah,
a lot of happy people.
This is a little uneven. Some people regrow hair.
Really?
No joke. Yeah.
Now, I know you work with a lot of women. Do you work with men too? And is this successful for men?
Yeah, but the hair regrowth is very uneven. Some people get it, some people don't. Another not entirely consistent effect is huge effect on sleep. So I've been difficult with sleeping for decades because of training and all that stuff. I sleep like a teenager now.
Wow.
I mean, you could probably shake me. I wouldn't wake up. I'm sleeping like a kid again.
Wow.
And it has a wonderful, what's called an anorexigenic effect. That is, your appetite is completely turned off. You lose a lot of appetite just by going grain-free. This turns it off for most people altogether. Now, you can still enjoy food. It still tastes the same. It still tastes wonderful.
Right.
Especially when you have your taste perception amplified by being grain-free.
Yeah. Does that happen too?
Yeah, your taste perception changes. That's why people say, I can't stand Brussels sprouts, but now I love them.
Okay, good.
So this facilitates intermittent fasting.
Uh-huh.
It frees you entirely, Denise, from the tyranny of food. You have breakfast, say, at 7 a.m., maybe 3 eggs and bacon or whatever. Right. And you might think about eating something around 6 p.m. That's the kind of freedom you have. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. No.
Very powerful.
Very hungry.
And with all this, you're losing wrinkles, better skin, faster healing, better bone health, more muscle. I mean, it's so. Here's a great. Forgive me. I'm going to have to tell you about a mouse study real quick. Okay. This is a mouse study performed at MIT, but it illustrates a point perfectly. 2 groups of mice given a really crappy diet, right? Mimic fast food. Well, a control group just got the fast food diet. They got fat, diabetic, lost their hair, didn't play with each other, didn't mate with each other anymore. They got old and fat, right?
Right.
Other group, same crappy diet, given Lactobacillus reuteri. They stayed slender their whole life, rich, thick fur, smooth skin, non-diabetic, played with each other, mated with each other. They stayed young until death.
Wow.
And I think that's what we're seing play out to some
What
degree.
did they die of?
They were killed by the
Oh.
scientists.
Okay.
Which is
If
kind of
they're
a
young.
shame, because one of the questions I raise is this anorexigenic effect. You know, the only method that has reasonable data outside of humans that
Right.
causes longevity is
Yeah.
caloric restriction, right?
Okay.
Well, what if we enjoy this anorexigenic effect from this yogurt and you cut your calories, not because you're counting calories or limiting calories, it's because you don't care.
Okay.
And you eat less for dinner, you eat less of meals, you skip meals, you forget to eat dinner. I've done that many times.
Wow.
And so you're in effect practicing caloric restriction with none of the agony, none of the aggravation, none of the terrible deprivation of calorie restriction. Will that lead to longevity? So we won't know, at least in that mouse study, because they killed the mice.
Yeah, right. But
that
now
study's not.
you've been testing this on your clients for how many months now?
The longest person is made 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And
So
I
talk
communicate
to
with a
me
lot of these
about
people.
those people. You have groups of people that go on your website and they become part of your blog family community, and they're your test subjects. They're your mice. Tell me about them. Tell me about the successes.
So one of the things I do every week is I do just this. I do this on a two-way video platform. Me, maybe 25 people from around the world, and people coming back, and they'll come back and they say, I'm doing the yogurt, and I used to have wrinkles here that were terrible. I hated them. They're gone. Another woman had radiation treatments to her chest, and you know how it exposes veins. She was very self-conscious of the veins in her chest.
Yes.
They would disappear within 4 weeks. There's something called senile purpura that older women get. That's where they get these purple blotches all over their arms and legs and chest.
Yes.
Gone within 4 weeks. Around the eye wrinkles, gone starting within 4 weeks, and then, of course, more so over time.
Okay.
On and on and on. I mean, it really, and it has some very interesting probiotic effects, unique from every other probiotic I've ever seen, because this bacteria, most bacteria like your colon, right?
Yes, right.
But this bacteria likes your stomach, duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, the upper GI tract.
Okay.
And I think it's one of the most effective ways to not have a very common condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Yes, SIBO.
SIBO, yes, exactly.
Yes.
Which I think 1 in 4 to 1 in 3 Americans now have. Because now that I was guilty, Denise, of underestimating just how prevalent this was. Oh, it's everywhere.
Oh, sure. Because we're like an antibiotic society, and we were damaged with all the glyphosate, so it's almost impossible not to have some SIBO.
Right. Yep. Aspartame, saccharin, sugars.
Oh, that
all
too.
the stuff we do. It's like throwing breadcrumbs out to ducks. They'll follow you.
Yes.
Putting that stuff down your throat causes bacteria to rise up in the upper GI tract. But this Lactobacillus reuteri is very effective at, I wouldn't say use it to treat SIBO, but I think it's a really good way to either keep it from happening, which is extremely common, or maybe diminishing likelihood of recurrence. Because as you likely know, treating SIBO is typically plagued by recurrences, frequent recurrences.
Now, how does this probiotic affect, or just the whole yogurt, the study that you're doing, how does it affect the autoimmune diseases? Okay, so you're losing your weight. How does it affect the thyroid issue? Because if you have a thyroid issue and you're starting to heal, your thyroid's going to go off kilter or balance itself out. If you have diabetes, it's going to balance itself out. What do you find?
I don't know if there's a thyroid connection. There's no evidence that there is or there isn't, so I can't say one way or the other.
Okay.
I will tell you in inflammation in general, because of this fairly potent probiotic effect. So one of the, besides just colonizing the upper GI tract, Lactobacillus reuteri is also a potent producer of something called bacteriocins. And all that means, and these are natural antibiotics that are effective against the organisms, the Enterobacteriaceae that colonize SIBO. So, because if you have SIBO, which one in 3 of your listeners have SIBO,
right?
If you have SIBO, you have massive body-wide inflammation. It may show up as rheumatoid arthritis, or psoriasis,
Right.
or funny other skin rashes, or a high C-reactive protein, or other measures. It can show up in so many different ways. It can show up as colon cancer or diverticular disease or fibromyalgia or restless leg syndrome or Parkinson's. So it's everywhere. Type 2 diabetes. So this organism, if it suppresses or prevents SIBO, by that means it can have massive anti-inflammatory effects.
Okay, good. Because everything is inflammation these days. Everything.
But I'll tell you, Denise, that all I got to say is to the ladies, this reduces your wrinkles starting in a few weeks.
Yeah!
I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling some fancy $90 cream or some injection. I'm just telling you, go make the stinking yogurt. Right?
Okay, and I will post it again. I will post your piece again when this is over because I want people to have the recipe. But if they wanted to be part of your Wednesday class, how would they be able to sign up for this, if at all?
There's a low-cost subscription website called the Undoctored Inner Circle. And so every week we have these, what I call virtual meetups, like what you and I are doing.
Right.
And we just talk to people, and they report back their experiences. And you know what's great, Denise?
Yes.
You know this, when you talk to people, they teach me things.
Yes.
Because we're all collaborating.
Yes,
you know,
we are.
no one person, you know this, no one person, I don't care if they have MD, PhD, I don't care. Nobody's got all the answers. Particularly today, the pace of knowledge is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
So what if you get together a whole bunch of people concentrating on similar questions? You start to learn stuff. So there's this group of people. It's not the same group. It's different all the time.
Yes.
A handful of regulars
Right.
have taught me lessons about the yogurt. They report back their experiences. These are informal, of course. This is not a clinical trial.
Sure.
But these are very, most people can be very, very astute observers. And they'll show me the before-after photographs. And some of the things are jaw-dropping.
Yes, we have a before and after photograph of my client Savannah, but for some reason it got lost in the email, so I can't show it, but I'm going to show it later on. And just a person that I was treating with a liver issue, she ended up, just by virtue of the fact that I put her on the Wheat Belly diet, she lost 80 pounds. And she wasn't your client, she was my client, but I used your principles. So I want to encourage people to, if they want to, because you're not really taking clients anymore, but you can go on his Undoctored, what is the website called again, please? The Undoctored, the community that they can subscribe to?
That's the Undoctored Inner Circle. Or if someone just wants a more informal, no-cost introduction to all this, there's, of course, an Undoctored book, but there's also an Undoctored blog, an Undoctored Facebook page, and, of course, all the Wheat Belly properties as well. You can't avoid the Wheat Belly property everywhere. It's like sand in your bathing suits everywhere.
It's everywhere. Thank God. And that was something that I have to tell you. When I healed my daughter in 2007 and 2008, I wrote the book in 2012. And your book came out right after or the same time that mine came out. So it wasn't like I had your information in a book. It just so happened that I just did the same thing. So when anybody works with me, I always tell them they have to read Wheat Belly first. It's the first book, in addition to mine, that they have to read so that they can learn or relearn how to eat properly and not like the standard American diet that all the doctors are telling them to eat. And it's critical. I mean,
isn't that interesting, Denise, that you, me, and many other people are coming to similar conclusions about a variety of things, but including wheat and grains, because national guidelines got it so miserably wrong.
I know.
And then it became obvious that, if you follow the food pyramid, food plate, the American Heart Association, TLC diet, American Diabetes Association diet,
wrong.
They're disasters. It's disasters. Yeah, and people say, why did I gain 150 pounds? Why am I a diabetic? And I exercise. I do everything right. Because they were given bum advice. But that's why a lot of us are coming to similar conclusions.
Okay, I have one small question also. The coconut yogurt I'm going to use for the recipe for the magic yogurt. That's what he calls it, his magic yogurt. Can you use almond milk?
No, not enough material. And by the way, with the coconut milk, it's canned with no emulsifiers or thickening agents. So it should be just plain coconut milk. Like Trader Joe's says, it's just plain coconut milk.
Okay.
You're going to heat it on your sauce. I don't have this recipe written down. It's in my Undoctored Inner Circle.
Okay.
One of our users came up with this modification that made it work because we're
Oh my God.
and what she taught, her name is Daphne, and she taught us heat your coconut milk on the stove to 180 degrees. Put in a quart of material.
Yes.
3 teaspoons of gelatin that gets activated in heat. Let it cool to room temperature, 100 degrees.
Okay.
Take a stick blender, emulsify it so that you reduce the fat into little droplets.
What do you mean emulsify it?
So you take your stick blender and make the fat go into little droplet forms.
Okay.
Okay,
I
do
bought
that
a
in-
yogurt maker because I want to do it. I bought a yogurt maker. Is it the same thing?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So heat to 180, activate your gelatin, let it cool to room temperature, stick blender to suspend the fats, then add you have to use 10 tablets of the original probiotic or some of the prior batch of yogurt. Okay, so
And let me just tell them what the probiotic is. You go to, it's called Gaia.
it's called BioGaia, BioGaia. The product is called Gastrus, Gastrus.
Yes.
At least until we know. Maybe there's other strains that work, but we don't know that for a fact.
And since your last show, I now sell that BioGaia,
Great.
that
Great.
particular one. So you can go to my website, curingcourtney.com, and buy it.
Excellent.
But also, when you say emulsified, you got to explain. I'm not a chef. What does that mean? Like, what do you physically do?
So if you don't do that with your blender, the coconut milk will separate, and you have a big layer of fat
Oh,
and solid, and you don't want that. You want it to be as homogeneous as possible, like yogurt's supposed to
do
be.
you use just like the old-fashioned egg beater blender?
I use a stick blender. You could probably use a high-speed regular blender too.
Okay.
But it's so easy if you have a stick blender,
Okay.
an immersion blender.
I'll get one.
45 seconds or so.
Okay.
So do that. Then add your probiotic. Either crush 10 tablets of BioGaia or a couple of tablespoons of your prior batch.
Okay.
And then keep it at 36. Oh, then add 2 tablespoons of prebiotic fiber. It sounds like a lot. It takes me a minute to do this now.
Okay.
That's how quick it is. And
Okay.
then some means, as you point out, to keep it at about 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 36 hours. This is where people fall apart.
Yeah.
Because some people will use Instant Pots
Yeah.
and some yogurt makers. So this organism dies if you go higher than 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Not very hot. So it would die in Palm Springs, right?
Oh, so you have to use the yogurt maker or the Instapot.
Or a sous vide device. To be honest, I just use my oven. I've done
Okay.
this maybe 40 times and never had a failure. I turn the oven on to any temperature for about a minute and then turn it off. And do that every 2 to 4 hours, once before bed, when you wake up in the morning. That works fine. But if you don't get yogurt,
Yes.
it could be that your device is too hot.
Okay.
So you want to use the thermometer, check the temperature. I've had people with Instant Pots, for instance, go to 125 degrees.
Okay.
Not all set properly. If that happens, I don't think there's a way to reset the thermostat. You're just going to have to get another device of some sort. But
Right.
sous vide devices, they're about $99. They work.
Okay. Okay.
Or, really, your oven. If you don't mind turning it on every 4 hours or so.
Yeah.
It's very
Okay.
easy.
Okay. Yeah, but then you're sleep deprived because you're up 4 hours.
And I should mention, Denise, it makes, now when you make the dairy, the coconut milk, I have to admit to you, we haven't quite figured out how to make it this delicious. It's still pretty good, but it's not quite as good as the dairy form. The dairy form will be the most delicious, rich, thick yogurt you've ever had.
Okay.
So it's not bad. I mean, it's
Okay.
actually very tasty.
Have they ever made it with something like, I know what camel milk doesn't bother me, believe it or not. Camel milk.
I'm impressed you can find it. You should be able to use camel, goat, sheep, any of the A2 casein forms.
Okay.
You could use, I know in New York now you can get casein beta A2 milk.
I have no idea.
I've seen it there. I've seen it in suburban New Jersey, Orlando, Chicago, and LA. So I'm not sure how widely and Milwaukee. If Milwaukee has it, it's got to be present in most places.
Which is
That's
where
the
the doctor lives.
That's the
And he loves
A2
it.
form of dairy that's less immunogenic. But last I've checked several times, they only sell you the milk. They don't
Okay.
sell you the half and half or the cream. By the
Okay.
way, you could also use cream to do this, but the end product is more like butter. It's too
Okay.
thick.
Yeah, yeah.
So I use half and half, and I get a cream cheese-like thickness. Very rich.
It could be just standard organic milk, though, right?
Could do that too.
Okay. Because I know I can get goat's organic milk, and I can also get organic camel milk. Actually,
Okay.
camel milk is actually easy to find because they get it off the internet, but it's expensive.
You could also do a 50-50 blend with your choice of milk, let's say your camel or goat, whatever, with 50% coconut milk, and you'll get a better. Coconut milk is really it's trickier. I can't kid you, Denise. It's a little tougher.
That's okay.
So if you mix them together, if you can do that. Now, if you have a terrible intolerance to dairy, you shouldn't do that. By the way, so this yogurt with the prolonged fermentation, it doesn't rid you of all the problems of dairy. It just minimizes them. So
Okay.
if we start with organic, that frees you of antibiotic residue, some other things.
Okay.
You're going to ferment for a long time.
Okay.
There should be almost no lactose remaining. It's all fermented to lactic acid.
Okay.
And then the drop in pH from the accumulated lactic acid breaks down or denatures the immunogenic casein beta A1.
Okay.
So it's not without issues, but it is as reduced as possible when you do this.
Okay. Now, so I can do I'll just try the camel milk, and I'll let you know what happens. Because if I can mix the two together, then that should be sufficient for me. But I know that there's a lot of people who can't have milk at all.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one. They'll have to do the goat's milk, rather the coconut milk. So just before we go, I really have a few more questions. What are some of the things that you've noticed with your people who are on the wheat belly diet? I want you to go over some of the ailments again, because it's really important for people to say, oh, wait a second, I have that. This will actually help me. Besides the diabetes, we know, you and I know, diabetes 2 is an easy fix. People don't realize it.
Very
Have you worked with anyone with cancers that have helped to get better? Because I know that you're very, very much into the wheat belly diet, but you're not into paleo. So let me just ask two questions. The paleo question and what the differences are, and if you've worked with people with cancer. Now, I don't want to say that you've healed cancer. I just want to say, has it helped them with this particular diet? So first question is, what's the difference between the paleo and the wheat belly diet?
Well, first of all, wheat belly is not a diet; it's a lifestyle. So we do things like cultivate healthy bowel flora, right? So no diet does that.
Right.
It talks about high potency, multi-species probiotics, enthusiastic consumption of fermented foods, and an ideal intake of prebiotic fibers. So
Okay.
we do that. We correct miserable magnesium deficiencies that everybody has.
Yes.
Because that increases bone density, reduces heart rhythm disorders, reduces blood sugar, blood pressure, on and on and on. And because we drink filtered water, there's no magnesium in our water. We supplement omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil.
What do you suggest for magnesium? I mean, everybody has their magnesium tricks. What do you suggest for magnesium?
If you want rapid restoration of magnesium for the least cost in the most highly absorbable form, you make it yourself. And I call it magnesium water, and we make it from unflavored milk of magnesia, magnesium hydroxide, and we react it with carbonic acid, carbonated water. And this is also in my undoctored blog, Wheat Belly blog, undoctored book, Wheat Belly Total Health, Wheat Belly 10-Day Grain Detox book. It's everywhere. You make this, and it yields magnesium bicarbonate, which is the most highly absorbable form of magnesium. You can't buy it, Denise, because if it was reduced to a powder, it's extremely hygroscopic, meaning water absorbent.
Okay.
You ever buy something that when it's exposed to air, a few days later come back solid hard like concrete?
Right.
That's what this would do. So we have to make it ourselves. That's very inexpensive.
Okay.
That recipe is in the book. Just got to be sure that when you buy the milk of magnesia that it is unflavored, can't be flavored, and it should not have sodium hypochlorite, bleach. A lot of the manufacturers are now putting bleach. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Who
Is
knows?
there any organic one?
No. not that I'm aware of. So It's
Okay.
getting harder and harder to find brands without the sodium hypochlorite. That may become an issue in future. I believe Kroger's has it. CVS used to have it. But just be careful with that. And it's very easy. It's very inexpensive. And it tastes like water.
Okay.
Yeah, and it raises magnesium far better than any magnesium you can buy in tablet form. Far better.
What about when you just get into a bathtub of Epsom salt?
I think that works, but no one's. I've called the companies. I said, show me your data that you raise tissue levels. They said, we don't have any.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know. I know people claim they get relief from such things as muscle cramps. So I suspect there is an effect, but it's never been quantified properly. So I don't really know for the fact.
Okay.
But back to your question.
Yes,
So,
please.
So it's not really a diet. It's a lifestyle in which we remove foods that never belong in your diet in the first place.
Yes.
And then we correct a lot of the deficiencies that persist in their wake because of modern habits. So, nice girl like you doesn't like the idea of running naked in a tropical sun.